Anyway, so those are the people. How's school going? You like it? You're a junior?
John.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the annual Candidates Forum presented by the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce. My name is John Van Steen. I'm the Secretary of the Board of Directors, and I'll be tonight's moderator. Tonight's forum is entitled Business in the Austin Community. The Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce is made up of businesses and individuals interested and involved in the strength and vitality of the local economy. Unfortunately, Gail Marshika, President of the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce, is unable to be with us tonight. But to discuss some of the highlights of the Chamber, may I introduce to you our Vice President, John Stiliano.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, first of all, on behalf of Gail, she extends her regrets for not being here tonight. She was detained. But please allow me to introduce two members, or actually three members of the board that are here. Harry Campbell, John Geronimo, John Astin, and myself. I would also like to thank the library for hosting this event tonight, and also would like to thank the candidates for taking time out to come here. I'm just going to briefly touch on a few initiatives that we have as a Chamber of Commerce. We are basically working as a chamber supporting the local businesses, and if you're getting this newsletter that comes twice a month, you know what I'm talking about. It's filled with useful information about the local businesses, what they offer, sometimes events, and basically it's a lot of information that local businesses carry throughout the month. We're also planning a multi-chamber schmooze in November. More details to follow. And look up for an upcoming Shop Local event in November. Also, we're planning an Uptown initiative with Halloween Pet Parade. The Chamber, the big event I would call it, is that we are applying for grants to have the Chamber as a business incubator. That means that businesses can actually start out with the help of the Chamber, at the Chamber office with little or no cost. So we already applied for grants, so we're waiting on that. Without further ado, Thomas.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Before we get started, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank James Ricasso at the Austin Library staff for helping us to bring this event to fruition. James, thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Board of Directors of the Chamber, and specifically the Candidates Forum Committee, for their help and hard work. And lastly, the Chamber would also like to recognize and thank for their service the elected officials from the community who are here in attendance. I see Manny Caseta and Mike Tawil, Mary Ann Roberts. I know I'm missing someone. Oh, perhaps not. Okay. The guidelines for tonight's forum are as follows. Tonight's discussion is entitled Business in Ossining and the Ossining Community. There will be a series of questions related to the office that you're seeking. For those positions which are uncontested, we'll have a brief introduction and question and answer period. For those positions which are contested, we'll have a more extensive question and answer period, and we'll alternate the order of who answers the questions. We will continue to ask questions for as long as time allows. We are limited in time, so we would appreciate it if candidates would be brief, but they do have the opportunity to use their full time as they so wish. Responses of the candidates will be limited to 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes for the town council session. Should you finish prior to the allotted time, that is acceptable. Our timekeeper this evening is John Stiliano, the Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce, who will indicate to the candidates when he or she has 30 seconds left, 15 seconds left, and when the time to answer is over by use of the by use of the signs. Remember, this is a forum sponsored by the Ossining Chamber of Commerce and a positive opportunity for the business community and Ossining community at large to hear your views and vision about business in Ossining in the upcoming years. We're interested in hearing your ideas about the future of Ossining and of the business in Ossining. This is not a debate, so please speak the positives that you bring to the office and avoid negatives of your opponents. Be specific in your responses. For example, if you make a statement regarding cutting taxes, well, tell us specifically how you plan to do that. And lastly, there will be no audience question and answer period, nor will there be any participation from the audience during the course of the forum. In our first segment, we'd like to introduce to you the judicial candidates of the community. I thought that we were going to have 4 candidates in attendance, Montgomery Delaney on the Republican line and Gretchen Walsh on the Democratic line for the Supreme Court judge. Are they here? Then on our more local level, we'd like to introduce to you Michael Tawil and Mark Reisman. They're running on the Democratic Party line for the Town of Ossining Justice Court. Michael and Mark, would you please step up? Yes, just right over here.
Okay, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Judge Michael Tawil.
Michael, before you start, in 2 minutes, just please introduce yourself to the community and educate the voting public on the qualities and qualifications that will make you the best candidate in the office.
Well, I am running unopposed. Mark and I are both on the Democratic line for 2 open seats. As you know, I'm Judge Michael Tawil. I'm a current sitting Ossining Town Judge, one of the 3 judges that are on the bench. And for the past 4 years, I've been in that role. And what the town court does, I might as well explain it kind of briefly, because a lot of people don't know what we do. We adjudicate a full jurisdiction over all misdemeanor crimes committed in the town of Ossining. We also handle felony crimes up to what's called felony hearing. We adjudicate building code violations, small claims, landlord-tenant matters, parking and traffic. We've been doing that for the past 4 years. We took this court from what was a village court and a town court. We merged courts, and we were able to run the court efficiently the last 4 years. We reduced a large backlog of violations that had to be cleared, and we're pretty proud of the job we've done running the court in a pretty efficient and fair fashion. We like to make sure that everyone in our court is treated with respect and allowed to litigate their case, and we try and adjudicate the cases fairly according to the law. We've been doing it for the last 4 years, and together with Mr. Reisman, who I expect will also be a judge come January, we hope to continue doing it. And that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Reisman?
Thank you. Good evening. I am Mark Reisman, obviously. I am also running for town justice here in Ossining. I have been practicing law for many years, let's put it that way. You get to a certain age where you don't want to say how many, but it's a long time, over 25. I am presently, in addition to having a private practice in Hawthorne, New York, I am the deputy town attorney in Ossining. I have served in that position for the past 5.5 years, and part of my job, a good part of it, is having the honor to practice in front of Judge Tawil and also the other 2 justices in the court, Judge Kova and Judge Freed. My job presently in court is as the town prosecutor, so I am in charge of either negotiating or trying any traffic court matters, any municipal code violations brought to town, and related types of charges. As Judge Tawil indicated a second ago, the courts were merged about 3.5 years ago, and I was, about 3 years ago I should say, and I was instrumental or participated, shall we say, in merging the business of the village and the town courts and making sure that things run smoothly. We had a backlog coming in. the backlog is non-existent at this time. We dispose of approximately somewhere in the range of 50 to 100 traffic matters per week, and then there's everything else. I have experience as both a criminal defense lawyer, and I've also done work on the prosecution side of cases, and some of them, were significant. In addition, I have a lot of experience practicing business law. I have taken cases on an assigned counsel basis in criminal court and also in various family courts. So I feel that I have a broad range of experience which will be of great assistance as I hopefully take the bench in the fall. Thank you.
Both unopposed.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have Manuel Quesada and Quantel Basemore. Manny and Quantel are running unopposed for the Austin Board of Trustees. Please have a seat. And Manny, why don't we start with you? Please tell us about yourself. What credentials do you bring to the office you seek? And please include your education and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in this position.
Thank you, John. Thank you. I want to say thanks to everyone that actually came in for this occasion.
Speak into the mic, please.
Sorry. I want to thank everyone that actually came in tonight for this forum. Appreciate that. My name is Manuel Quesada. I've been wrestling for Austin for about 22 years plus. I've been sitting as a sitting trustee now for, it's my second term, so it's about 3 years and a half, a little more than 3 years and a half. I think I have the qualifications now to be sitting where I am at this point going forward. I have an architectural background. I also am a homeowner here in the village of Austin, so I know a lot in that regard. And I also have a family here it's been growing. I have a baby, 22 months, almost 20 months. Also, we're going to be here for a very long time. Not only that, but my wife moved from upstate New York to Austin, more because of me, and now she loves it. She's very active in the community as well. So we have a lot to invest in this community that we call Austin. So that's just a few of the qualifications that I can see going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Basemore, please tell us about yourself and what credentials you bring to the office that you seek.
Good evening. My name is Quantel Basemore. I am a lifelong resident of Ossining. I'm third generation here in Ossining, New York. I'm also a chamber member. Graduated Ossining High School in 2007, went on to Howard University for business management, and I also have an associate's degree from Westchester Community College. I'm currently employed by Interfaith Council for Action, which is a not-for-profit housing association here in Austin. One thing that I can say is that, particularly for the business community, me personally, I've always tried to encourage the business owners that I know to be chamber members, because I believe when we start to have a conversation about revitalization, that it's important for all business owners to be a part of that conversation. The best way to do that is to be a chamber member.
Thank you. Mr. Basemore, what do you believe are the most important issues facing the village over the next 2 years, and how would you plan to address them?
Some of the issues, right now I know the board is currently looking at ways to address overcrowded housing, which is a big issue. One of the things that I would like to see done, I know it was introduced last year, but I think it should be revisited, is the landlord registry. The landlord registry requires all landlords to register their homes for a certificate of occupancy. And that's just one way for the village to keep up with who is living here in the village. And I know that it was highly contested last year, but I think that I think Portchester, that was one of the viable ways that they were able to address some of those issues, and I would like to see that be revisited.
Great. Thank you. And Mr. Quesada, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the village over the next few years, and
some of the things that we actually working on the village board right now on not just overcrowding, but
Speaking to the mic?
thank you. Is that better?
Yes.
All right, real close. A couple of the issues that the village board has been working towards this past year and the years before this is how do we control, how do we make our departments better in a way, more friendly use. One of the things that was mentioned a couple of weeks back, it was the reconfiguration of the building planning department, which is a very important key in what the village does in any regards, either through building departments, to interfacing with the communities as a homeowner. So we are looking into improve those two departments and see how can we manage a lot of the stuff that is that a lot of the community has a concern in regards to that. That's just one of the phases. The other one is how do we go back to rehab our downtown? We started that, I want to say, 3.5 years ago when I was part of a different board, so to speak, different village board, but a different entity in a way. We started working towards that, and we started working a little bit with the chamber, and I think that's a phase that we are working towards now. Going forward, we have a lot of potentials, a lot of different ideas on where can we get grant money so we can work either with private organizations or with organizations here within the village of Boston. So I think this is a very good potential that at the end of the year, next year, we're going to see a lot of that going on here in the village of Boston. So.
Great. Thank you very much. And next up, we would like to present to you Luke Carbonaro, who is running on the Republican, Conservative, and Reform Party lines for the position of Board of Trustees of the Village of Boston, as well as Rita Levin, who is running on the Democratic and Working Party family lines. Please step. Luke, why don't we start with you? Please tell us about yourself. What credentials do you bring to the office that you seek? And please include your educational and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
I'd be happy to. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting this event. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having my opponent, Ms. Trustee Levin, as well. A little bit about myself. I'm an Austin High School graduate. I'm an Oswego State graduate degree in education as well as history. I'm currently enrolled as a graduate student at American Military University, pursuing 2 master's degrees in emergency management and homeland security, where I currently have a 4.0. In terms of working with the community already, I've been a long time Austin resident. I volunteer not only with the Austin Fire Department, where I'm a first lieutenant for Independent Hose Company. I've also volunteered countless Decembers with Bacon Cheer Collier Christmas Cheer Fund, delivering baskets of food for those in need throughout the community. I feel I have a certain background that is lacking currently here in the village. I come from a very diverse family, and there are Protestants, Catholics, and Jews in my family, Italians, Puerto Ricans, as well as Irish and German, Republicans and Democrats in my own family. I know I can have the ability, the skill set, and the vision for Austining moving forward. As I've proven throughout my life working and living here in such a rich and diverse community, I know I can bring these qualifications to the village board. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Levin, please tell us about yourself and what credentials do you bring to the office you seek. Additionally, include your education and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
Thank you, and I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. My name is Rika Levin, and I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and the qualifications, and thank you to the Chamber for having us all here tonight. To start with, I think that the key elements that make me qualified for the position and for the trustee is that I have an MBA from NYU, which gave me a beginning and a foundation for the business and development that I have used in my corporate experiences. Sorry. So for over 2 decades, one of my key attributes is that I've been managing small and large budgets in both Fortune 50 companies, not-for-profits, community organizations. I currently work in one of the largest community organizations in Westchester County. What it does for me is that I belong actually to a couple of chambers through that job, which allows me to really bring in the talents and the knowledge from working across different towns in Westchester County, so I can bring that to the job. Dealing with budgets on a daily basis has been something I've been doing right from when I got my MBA to working at Chase, to working at MetLife and other Fortune 50 companies. I then spent over a decade doing work with non-for-profits. I have both the for-profit experience and non-for-profit experience, and I manage budgets from a couple of $100,000 to $42 million. What that does for a person running for a trustee is a few things. Number one, you learn to deal with layers of people. You learn to work collaboratively across many organizations. I work with municipalities, the city of New York, Brooklyn, the Bronx. When you commute into the city, the entire community development that was done in Harlem was something that I worked with in a commercial real estate business for Chase at the time. I also built and ran an award-winning diversity program for Chase, and then went on to MetLife, where I was a senior executive. I missed the time. I'll have to do the rest later.
Thank you. Well, Ms. Levin, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the village over the next few years, and how would you address them?
I think there are a couple of issues. Number one, I think the position requires somebody who knows how to manage budgets, because one of the things that I've already learned as an appointed trustee is that managing budgets, understanding line items, understanding how business is conducted, understanding union relationships, contract negotiation, branding, marketing, all the things that I have spent the past couple of decades plus producing great results in, is exactly the kind of stuff that makes for a very strong trustee. And that's one of the things that intrigues me about the job. I've dealt with unions across many parts of my career, managed branding and marketing, so I think those elements of the marketing branding of Ossining are key. I want to see us from a vision point of view. You know, we should be a destination, and the businesses in this village should be a destination area for people coming from all parts of Westchester and Manhattan. We're no different than where Cold Spring was a number of years ago, and their chamber took action, and the citizens took action, became a destination. They connected themselves to the rest of the Hudson Valley. We are sitting in the middle between Tarrytown with its amazing part in Hudson Valley. We're sitting north of us with Croton that has some fantastic stuff, and we should be connected and leveraging other municipalities. I think the village trustee position and my vision for it is to bring us on a higher level and the change, so to speak, as a destination with a number of projects that have started. Thanks. I'm looking over there and you're over there. So thanks for that. And lastly, I think that the issue of the housing, I'd like to see a very healthy environment where people are able to sell their houses when they're ready to move or retire or leave, and like to see a very healthy environment where new people can find a great place to live the way my husband and I did years ago.
Thank you very much. Mr. Carbonero, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the village over the next few years, and how would you address them?
I believe in a triad that this village has to address. And some have already been brought forward both by my opponent and other board trustee candidates, which I'm quite frankly kind of happy about, is it means that we're already kind of on the same page, and that, you know, whether you're like me or my opponent, the same vision, the same bipartisan effort can be made to achieve these goals. what has been said several times now is about the unsafe housing here in Ossining. Both as a first responder and potential home buyer here in Ossining, I would love it to know everybody's taken care of within the village. It does not only pose a private health problem, but a public health problem with overcrowding housing. Right. One disease spreads from one aspect to the other very quickly inside cramped quarters. Additionally, businesses here in Ossining, I encourage everybody to check out my website, OssiningLoop.com, where after tonight, if I do not get enough time to answer tonight, I have a 5-point economic plan for the village of Ossining, focusing on businesses. In addition, I would love to see infrastructure in Ossining that does not just mean the potholes in the roads. That means having more parking, having better sidewalk quality with crosswalks, better signage to ensure everybody, both school children and adults, will be able to get around Ossining. The budget is also an important issue, and I forgot to mention this in my opening. I'm a former college teacher where I taught courses primarily in history and economics. I've also been vice president of an ambulance corps where I oversaw a 6-figure budget, as well when I was in my undergraduate studies at Oswego State University. I was in the student government there and helped oversaw a 7-figure budget.
Thank you. Mr. Carbonero, what do you think about the village or downtown business climate? And if you believe it needs to be changed or improved, what would you do?
I was hoping I was going to get this question tonight about the downtown economic development. Part of my 5-point plan is utilizing Market Square. As of right now, a couple of parking lots and an open area. Where in my undergraduate up in Oswego, New York, which was a booming river town, a Great Lake town, loads of common stores up there. These stores will be able to encourage businesses to move to Ossining, to have interconnected with one another, making it easier and more accessible for the residents and non-residents to come in to shop in Ossining. I'd also, which was addressed by the board already, parking complex next to the recreation center. I would love to see a multi-story parking garage there that would not only help residents there, it will help business owners there to find parking for themselves and their employees, in addition to all the shoppers that would want to come to Ossining and that already do come to Ossining. I know I find it particularly troubling when you drive down Main Street and all the metered parking is taken up and you're forced to park blocks away.
Ms. Levin, what do you think about the village or downtown business climate? And if you believe it needs to be changed or improved, what would you do?
I think that the village is a fantastic place right now for business. I happen to like going on Saturday mornings to the farmers market. I think there's some great businesses there. And I think that, like many of the Hudson Valley towns, there's some challenges. So there are two things about the downtown that I'd like to speak about. Number one, we can always use more business. Every village can use more business. And I want to speak to the destination idea that I had before, which I think is doable. But more importantly, I happen to, by the way, agree with your parking. It's one of the things that I think is actually necessary. But I also represent those, the commuters. I'm one of the people on the current board and running that's been commuting for many, many years. The commuters, to me, are a missed opportunity. They come in early in the morning, they come home exhausted, and they leave. And one of the things we need to do is find ways to encourage about a third of our population who commutes on a regular basis to shop, to be able to buy local, make it easy for them, and put actual marketing programs in place to the commuters to shop. And I don't think we've worked hard enough at getting that group involved with our businesses. I also think that this is a great place for couples to live in. I think we're one of the towns that are affordable. We have rents, we have condos, we have houses, we have apartments. My parents are senior citizens. We moved them up here to the apartments at Parkview. They were reasonable and they were great. And I think we can work more on getting people to come in by working with other municipalities, and most importantly with my experience with large corporation. Regeneron is hiring about 1,000 people mostly engineers a year, and we're not leveraging the way Peekskill is, for example, from speaking to the right corporate folks to get us on the list. So, recap, to really get corporations more involved with us, for the smaller businesses, to also focus on the commuters as buyers.
Great, thank you. Ms. Levin, please discuss the Sing Sing Museum project and how this fits in with your vision of the waterfront.
I love the Sing Sing project. I think it's fantastic. My husband and I lived in Scarborough Manor while we were looking for apartments and houses and where we're going to live when we decided to live in Ossining. So we had a great view over Sing Sing. I have a passion for it, but Sing Sing is considered one of the most progressive penal examples in the state of New York. It allows people to stay closer to their families and their attorneys, and it's a great study and progressive thinking about and social activity that goes on. They have the music program, they have a lot of stuff. I believe that museum will be a great destination. From the research that I've done, it's estimated, depending on the study, for about 100,000 to about 200,000 people to come visit that museum. If done correctly, it allows you to get grants from various government agencies as well, and there's work that's been done on it, and it's come a long way. So I happen to think it's a great boon for Ossining in total, and for the downtown specifically. I'm a big fan of it. If you've ever been to California, Alcatraz, when it started, was not seen as a big thing, but it's now one of the biggest destination stops in the state of California. So I'm a big fan.
Thank you. Mr. Carbonaro, please discuss the Sing Sing Museum project and how this fits in with your vision of the water.
Okay, thank you. Well, first, as both a student and a history teacher, I can definitely appreciate what is trying to be done, creating a museum, a target destination. There's a couple of things, though, that I have reservations about the Sing Sing Museum. First of all, unlike Alcatraz, Sing Sing prison is still an active maximum security prison where New York City sends their most horrible criminals. They send them up to us. Future home buyers here in Ossining, they look at the sex registry, and a lot of people are turned off by that when they see the numbers of sex offenders living within Ossining. Now, granted, they all live at the one address at Sing Sing Prison, but that should just tell you, what type of environment you might be getting yourself into. We only have to think about this past summer in upstate New York, where there was a prison escape of 2 hardened felons. Like I said before, though, I am a lover of history. There already is a museum for the prison at the rec center. I frequent it at least once a year to see if anything's been added. Will it bring $100,000 worth of revenue into the village? That's to be determined. I know when I was organizing extra credit for my classes, and even while I was a student here in Ossining, the thought never came up to go and visit the museum. Grant money would be nice, but I believe grant money would be better spent elsewhere.
Thank you. Mr. Carbonaro, Avalon has been completed, Harbor Square is under construction, and development is considered for the Elks Club, Printex, and other sites throughout the village. As a result, many people have concerns regarding overpopulation, leading to an overtaxed infrastructure and traffic congestion throughout the community. How would you address their concerns? What solutions might you suggest?
As I mentioned before, one of my triads that the village should be working on is infrastructure. And like I said before, this does not mean just simply filling the potholes. This means making our roads more accessible to handle a heavier traffic volume. As part of the pilot program that you saw the current village were implement at the 2-way Spring Street in anticipation for a heavier traffic volume in that area. As far as an overtaxing, overcrowded, as long as they're meeting village code and building codes for the housing, and as long as everything is by the book, I don't see a problem with an increase in population here in Ossining as long as it's done responsibly and as long as it's done professionally. Part of the way that we can offset these costs is one of my other plans, part of my 5-point plan, and this might be more appealing for the local business owners here in the room. I propose it's tentative, granted, it's just a proposal, a tax break plan for the local business owners already in Ossining and those willing to come to Ossining. My plan would have successful small business and large businesses here in Ossining receive, whether it's a 50, 67, or excuse me, 33 or 20% cap, rated at different years, capped at either $20,000, $15,000, or $10,000, depending on which option they will choose. Part of this money will have to be earmarked for capital improvement in and around their stores in the community. So whether that be adding additional parking lots, so all these the influx of residents can park at for the local shops, whether that be hiring these new residents, or whether that be simply giving them a better view of their store and beautifying it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Levin? Avalon has been completed, Harbor Square is under construction, and development is considered for the Elks Club, Printex, and other sites throughout the village. As a result, many people have concerns regarding the overpopulation, leading to an overtaxed infrastructure and traffic congestion throughout the community. How would you address their concerns, and what solutions might you suggest?
Well, first of all, I think all of things like tax breaks and some of the other things mentioned all cost money. Taxes is revenues, so you either believe in, tax breaks, which then you have to figure out where you're going to get the revenue from, or you believe in increasing costs. It's a little bit hard to focus on both at the same time from a P&L point of view. So for me, I think you have to focus on a plan that says that some of the roads need to be looked at as far as traffic patterns. I think that I do like to look at parking, because parking is an issue in all of these towns because there is limited space. There is the development that's downtown that's been planned correctly, so I happen to think that there is room for some of the growth and some of the management of looking at the growth correctly and managing and streamlining some of the expenses that are going to be necessary to fix some of the parking issues, and also to look at different roads and where we can expand them. I think that looking at businesses is all about branding a lot of our community and increasing the revenues for the businesses, whether it's what Terratile just did with their solar panels that puts $20-something thousand in their pockets every year, and looking at green technology to save businesses. But I think that's where a lot of the help can come for businesses, from trustees on the board.
Thank you. We've been talking about development in the downtown. And as we know, development has been contemplated for a number of years on the Market Square and Post Office parking lot sites. They haven't yet come to fruition, but it seems as if these are projects that are going to be in the works. Describe your vision of the development of these sites and what the Ossining downtown may look like in 10 years, and describe your views of the balance between development and natural and historic resources. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Levin, yes.
So I just need you to define the last part of that question.
Well, within the development structure, we're working with historic resources such as the Sing Sing Prison Museum. We have historic resources essentially on Main Street. We have a historic district in Main Street. How do all of these things combine in with the development of downtown as you see it? Where do you see the town in 10 years?
So I'll start from the beginning. I think that for me, it's what makes people want to live in river towns. It's the beauty of these towns versus so many other choices of where one lives, which is the history combined with advancing the storefronts and the businesses that are on Main Street and on all of the other streets in downtown, and improving, creating events and creating a brand around our downtown so that more and more people come here and they go home at night. Right? So part of it is to increase the businesses where you come and eat. Look, I just saw the article on pasta, which is here in Ossining, being written in the New York Times. So for the first time, They have reservations through November because the New York Times wrote about them. We've got to get ourselves more in light of the great stuff that we have, the reason we all love living here, the reason we all chose to live here. Some of us are born here, some of us chose to live here, and we've stayed here because it's a great place to live. It's a great commute, it's a great place to go to the Berkshire, it's a great place to go to Westchester. We want people to come here, we want them to shop here, we want them to eat here, and we want them to either go back to their home in Ossining or go back somewhere else, so that this becomes the place you come to for the events that you want. In the summertime on the waterfront, restaurants in the winter and throughout. So I'm looking for ways to make this the place that people want to come, and I want to connect with the rest of the area. The history is a must. You can't take the history away. That takes away the whole river town. If you don't have the history, you don't really have what some of the successful river towns have. It's what differentiates us in the marketplace, and it's fantastic. And it's what makes people happy to live here. The boat clubs, the waterfront, the parks, this is what differentiates us from all the other towns. 10 years from now, listen, I want to be in every destination book so people from Manhattan come here, throw down their great money, think that Wobbles is cute, think that all these places are great to go, and go home and leave the money with the vendors that work here.
Thank you. Mr. Carbonaro, development has been contemplated for quite some time for the Market Square and Post Office parking sites, and we touched on this a little bit earlier. Describe your vision of the development of these sites and what the Ossining downtown may look like in 10 years, and describe your views of the balance between development and natural and historic resources.
Sure, I can definitely do that. There is one thing, if you currently look at Ossining versus the other river towns, that might make them more appealing than us right now, and it is the amount and the different types of businesses here in Ossining. And to my knowledge, there's not a major retail store here in Ossining. What's to differentiate us from another town or village that has one? If you want to talk about a destination to come up to Ossining, I think what we have to do is we have to attract some exciting type of store that already has a name brand recognition. It's like, let's go up to Ossining. They have a Dave & Buster's. Let's go to Ossining. It has an Old Navy. It has a Gap. Small businesses are great, but they're not going to bring in more people as a target destination. However, that does not mean we should forfeit any and all local businesses for the future. That's what entices bigger businesses to come to a place like Ossining. We need those mom and pop shops. We need stores like Bob's Army Navy Store, which has been here for decades. We need stores like Wobble Cafe and Lipton's Market, and even now Boston getting into the mix of things, all where I live and I frequent. In 10 years from now, I still want to be able to afford to live in Ossining as a resident, hopefully with a family of my own, and hopefully being able to go downtown. But we have to make it more accessible. We do that with parking lots, which we both seem to agree on. But I also think another part of my 5-point plan is that we need to create a shuttle service that incorporates both the Arcadian Shopping Center, Croton Avenue, or the Uptown of Ossining, North Island Avenue, as well as downtown Ossining to the train station. And with all of this in mind, in 10 years, Ossining should look fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. Carbonaro. Mr. Carbonaro, business owners and residents alike complain about the high level of taxes in Ossining and Westchester. However, the village taxes account for only 15% of the total of what we pay in property tax bills. What can you do in your position as village trustee to help moderate the level of taxes for your constituents?
This is an excellent question. It won't just be up to me if elected. It will be up to the entire board working in a bipartisan effort to make this vision happen. All right. I'd probably read about my tax break plan, and revenue has to come somewhere where you cut spending someplace else. You have to balance the budget, which I know is very hard to do with the limited amount of resources that we have. But I just want to take the next 90 seconds or so to fully explain my tax break plan, which would help the local businesses here in Ossining. Successful businesses in Ossining that turn profits deserve to be rewarded, and new businesses that might want to come to Ossining should have an incentive of coming to Ossining. My plan is over a 10-year period of time, a business can take a 50% tax break for 1 year, capped at $20,000 a year. So you won't see, some place like Stop and Shop saving 6 figures to spend the money with. Business can choose over 2 years, over the 10-year span. A third reduction, or 20% over 5 years. Third reduction is capped at $15,000 per year. 8% is capped. The pay is capped at $10,000 a year. With this in mind, they must be able to improve their own capital investments, hiring more people, expanding their stores. Listen, when people say tax breaks, they get nervous, especially during budget season. But we have to do something, and we have to do something cooperatively to ensure that businesses here in Ossining can afford, to repair a parking lot that's in disarray, can be able to afford to hire more local residents to work in their shops. We have to find some way for all this to happen together. And I believe my plan, which, if you look over the 10-year span, at most, one business will be saving 10% of what they're paying over a 10-year spot. Sometimes it's up to 5%. It's not that detrimental to the village.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Ms. Levin?
Okay. Listen, I've been doing budgets for over 20 years, and that math is, I gotta go on the website, because that's interesting math. I'll tell you what businesses do, because I grew up in a small business environment with my dad, working there every weekend, so I can pay for college. Businesses go out of business, 80% of businesses go out of businesses within the first 2 years. So unless you figure out a way to bring strong businesses here and help them in the beginning, they're not going to survive to your 10-year plan. Number two, consumers. Businesses need customers. You can go around and talk about all you want. They need two things. They need customers, so there has to be a great place for people to come. They need the commuters who have jobs coming in and they're skipping right over some of our stores. We need to get them into the stores. We need to get them to buy local. What differentiates the river towns is actually the small businesses, not the large chains, because they're too dominant. We have to help businesses. What I've heard the Chamber's doing, which is having an incubator, is a fantastic idea. First time I heard about it tonight. So coming here tonight has already, for me, as both a citizen, a voter, and a trustee, been amazingly helpful to me, because an incubator model is, I'm only sorry I didn't think of it myself, but thank you for sharing that information tonight, is fantastic for this town. There are a lot of people that are looking for that. The cost of starting a business is so astronomical, finding good help, so difficult, that what businesses are going to look for from trustees, from the board, regardless of who's on it, and I hope it's me, but regardless of who's on it, is help with their overhead and getting people into their shops, getting publicity for their shops, and leveraging the strength of chambers, of the trustees, of all of the politicians, working with towns around them to make that happen. That's how people make money, is when people come and visit them over and over again, and they have good and strong employees, which we do have in Ossining, because we've got really educated people. We have a very high education level in this town, so we've got great employees. A problem, by the way, in other parts of New York. So the plan, I think, is to leverage the strength of what we have, and I continue to say that it's all about bringing people here to every store. I like the incubator idea. I want to work on that more. I'm going to steal that from you. When I make my next cards, I'm putting that on there. And I think that the trustees in the village can be amazingly helpful. I worked for MetLife. I worked as a part of something called MetLife Bank. It was an incubator, so I have a lot of experience in how you get grants, how you get private money from corporations, and how you combine that with chambers and other municipalities in order to make incubators successful by leveraging the strength of the many to help the few, which is what businesses want. Lawyers, accountants, how to do tax form, how to hire the right people, what are the laws in negotiating with vendors, who are the PR agencies that can help them. And they can't afford 2 years to look at that. They got a restaurant to run. They've got, an Army-Navy store to run, a florist, and those kind of things. And that, I think, is helpful when trustees actually know it. I'm happy to be a part of trustees where we have Quantel, who's been, I don't see the time. Are you pointing to the time, or you forgot to do it? Oh, okay. Then I'm going to stop. Sorry. I was looking and I kept saying, when's it up?
Thank you.
Sorry, I got a little excited there and I was, wow, it's 2 minutes. It doesn't stop. It's great.
And for our last question, Ms. Levin, on November 4th, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hope?
November 3rd?
I've been following every. I don't know what that
I just want to make sure I show up on time and the people watching this show up on the right day.
That's sort of like the vote early, vote often. Okay. We'll change the script. On November 3rd, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hope are in the minds of the voters and will differentiate you from your opponent and will persuade the electorate to vote for you?
I think the thoughts they're going to have, and somebody said it to me earlier, is I think they want somebody who's experienced, somebody who has the experience of successful projects. You know, theory is great. We both have tremendous education. We both love the community. We've both been here for more than 20 years. We both love it. We've both done a ton of volunteer work. It's all on our resumes. It's all on our websites. We both love this place. Nobody does this for the money. We're both doing it for the love. And I think what's different is that I have real life experience in bringing projects and doing the marketing that this place really needs. I have the experience of working across various towns and various careers that I can bring to the table, not a year later, not 6 months later, but the day I started on the job, and I'm going to continue with that strength. I also think that people want a team that works well, and a team of Manny and Quantel and Victoria and John are people that have such varied experience, all of whom have been here at least 20 years, all of whom have lived here, average 20 years, because I've lived here a little bit longer, so have others. But certainly they've lived and raised children, etc. So I think that the best part of what people are going to think about is smart, a person that lands first on their feet and can get right into the budget system, a person that can deal with the unions, municipalities, and most importantly, a person that can bring corporate knowledge, commuter experience with commuters, and bring knowledge from other towns on day one right into the foreground. I also have to tell you that one of the pieces is the use of social media, and that is what I've been doing for the past decade, and I think that adds to the portfolio of what people are looking at as somebody that could take us to that next level and really get our name out there. I happen to love all the aspects of Ossining.
Thank you. Mr. Carbonero, on November 3rd, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hope are in the minds of the voters that will differentiate you from your opponent and will persuade the electorate to vote for you?
On November 3rd, as my opponent said, we both have pretty good educational backgrounds. Of course, I'm a bit younger than my opponent here, so my career has only been a couple of semesters of teaching college. However, I believe I've been more involved in this community, that I know more people in this community than my opponent does. I know, just the other day, I was down in Snowden Avenue in the Snowden House answering an alarm at the fire department. I go all across both the town and village of Ossining, meeting people from all different types of backgrounds, meeting people with all different aspirations in life. I feel that Ossining should have somebody from the community that was raised in the community, that was educated in the community, and still is living in the community, and volunteers and puts their life on the line for the community on a daily basis to represent them and their interests on the village board. I hope that on November 3rd, people will be asking themselves, wow, who do I choose between? How do I make up my mind? I personally would want to see somebody who gets their haircut at Gene's Barbershop, somebody who goes down for countless evenings at the boathouse, somebody that goes to the mechanic down on Spring and Broad at Lindare Auto. I would like somebody who uses to hire the dry cleaners for their own services. I would like somebody whose own doctors at Open Door Medical Center here on Main Street in Ossining. I would hope that somebody in Ossining would want their community best represented by somebody who has lived in the community, that has knowledge of the community, has interactions on a daily basis with the community. And as far as what I would hope to accomplish, Ms. Levin, with all due respect, your day one started a couple of months ago when you got the position over me for the vacated seat for Omar Herrera. So while you do say you would like to start day one, I can do this, I can do that, your day one started roughly 6 weeks ago, and I would like to see what you've done since and keep your promises if elected to continue your tenure. And I know the timer was having some difficulties over there. I realized that. Yeah. Well, I just, in respect of the rules, it's 2 minutes. I know my 2 minutes has elapsed at some time, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carbonaro. And thank Ms. Levin and Mr. Carbonaro. And next, we would like to call up the candidates for town supervisor. Be John Perillo, who is running on the Conservative and Reform Party lines, and Dana Levenberg, who is running on the Democrat and Working Families Party. Okay, Mr. Perillo, would you please tell us about yourself? What credentials do you bring to the office that you seek? And please include your educational and career achievements, as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
Good evening, members of the audience, the people that may be watching this at their home, and of course, thank you, Chamber of Commerce and the Board of Directors. My name is John Perillo. I've been a resident of Ossining for 64 years. I'm third generation of Perillos in this community. What I bring to this community is knowledge, experience, and history. I was humbled and honored over the past 30 years to be elected village trustee in the 80s, school board member in the 90s, and 2001 year mayor. I also served on the planning board, the zoning board, the Board of Architectural Review, the Economic Development Committee at that time. So I am well versed. When I hit the ground on January 1st, I will be very ready to take Ossining to the level that I brought the village of Ossining as mayor. I was educated in Ossining schools, parochial and public. While I was in my tenure of my public life, I've given Ossining a lot of, I believe, good things that you use today. I'll name a few of them. Maple House for senior citizens, Snowden House for affordable housing, Claremont Gardens for affordable housing, Richard Wishney Park, Arthur Jones Park. There are many, many projects that I was directly involved with. When I was on the school board, I supported the addition of the Ossining High School Science Wing, and I took a leadership role in making sure that that building at the time was structurally sound to take a second floor. And I'm glad to see that almost 15 years after I was involved in the first floor addition, that they did put a second floor. That's a vision, because I believe I'm the visionary, and that's what it takes to move Ossining forward. I'll answer all your questions, hopefully throughout the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Perillo. Ms. Levenberg, please tell us about yourself, what credentials you bring to the office that you seek, and please include your education and career achievements, as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
Thanks, John. First, I'd like to thank the Chamber for giving us this opportunity and the library for hosting this lovely event. And I hope that if there are any further questions, that everybody feel free to also look on my website at danalevenberg.com, or you can email me at levenberg@verizon.net. I just wanted to say that one of the questions that you had asked us up front was what are our qualities and our qualifications. I was born in New Jersey and raised in New Jersey, but I chose to live in Ossining as an adult because I thought it was such a great place to live and to work. I graduated from Brown University with a degree in international relations, and I have private sector experience in television production and commercial production. Since the time that I've had children, I've lived in Ossining, and I've thrown myself into the community. I believe that my qualities are my passion and my drive, my energy, my positive approach, and I'm a problem solver, and my integrity. I also think that my qualifications working at the state level for Assemblywoman Sandy Gala for the last 8 years, currently as Chief of Staff for the last 7, as well as serving on the school board as a volunteer for the last 9 years, have given me an excellent opportunity to learn a lot about economic development and bring the relationships I've built to helping the municipalities such as Ossining. I've worked closely with the Chamber for some of those grants that they're applying for, and I plan to continue to do that. I've started up a not-for-profit, the Ossining Microfund, to serve our community members, and I plan to continue to serve the community in my role as town supervisor. So I hope that you'll support me based on all of that good service I've given to the community and all that I want to give. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Levenberg, what do you believe are the 1 or 2 most difficult issues facing the town over the next 2 years, and how would you plan to address them?
I think that there's a combination of we need to look at our environment as well as our businesses and make sure that we maintain our environment sustainably while also balancing it with development. I know that we have a lot of stock that's currently available we need to fill, and I want to make sure that we do that in a responsible fashion. So I want to make sure that we attract new businesses by building on our historic sites and bringing tourist dollars into the community. I know you're going to ask me a question about Sing Sing Museum later, so I'm not going to talk about that right now, but I will later. And I want to make sure that we also make sure that it's affordable for people to continue to live here. And I want to do that by collaborating with the 2 villages of Briarcliff and Ossining, as well as working with the unincorporated part of the town to collectively brand what we have so we can bring more business into our stock. And also I want to make sure that when we do bring in businesses, that they take an interest in helping out with our schools, which right now are overcrowded. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Perillo, what do you believe are the 1 or 2 most difficult issues facing the town over the next 2 years, and how would you plan to address them?
Are we talking the town and the village?
Well, the town of Ossining encompasses the village as well, but generally, you're okay.
I think the most important, immediate thing that our team will do is to stop the reassessment. The present town board and my opponent and her team, they support reassessment. There are over 10,000 properties that have been researched. You've all probably got a memo or a knock on the door. And people say that we're talking about everybody should pay their fair share. I believe everybody that I'm looking at and everybody watching this at home believes they pay their fair share. What does that really mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means to the condominium owners. See, condominium owners are taxed at a commercial rate, which is roughly 50% of a single-family home that is assessed for 100%. So the most important people that are, I would say, targeted are the condominium people. So buyer beware with this here. So that's the most important thing. There are over 300 homes for sale in the village of Ossining, over 100 homes for sale in Briarcliff Manor. Now, everybody that I talk to that are realtors, they have the same story. The houses are priced accordingly, but the taxes are too high. Always the taxes are too high. So they invested almost $2 million, and they say it's revenue neutral. Revenue neutral, really? When I hear revenue neutral from the present town board and my opponents, you know what rings a bell in my head? It transcribes to me, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your insurance company, you can keep your insurance company. And by the way, you're going to get $2,500 back. So when do you think a governmental agency is going to spend almost $2 million and have it revenue neutral? Go on site, look at Scarsdale and other communities that have gone through this process.
Thank you, Mr. Perillo. Mr. Perillo, consolidation of services has been beneficial to the town of... Oh, did I miss?
Yeah, you didn't.
Oh. Yes. Consolidation of services has been beneficial to the town. The recreation department, courts, and police have all been combined. What is your view of the path to future consolidation of the town and village? And do you see this process moving forward? If so, what benefits could it provide? If you do not believe it should move forward, why not?
Absolutely. I'm one of the architects in my past presence on village trustee and various positions that started what we called at the time joint ventures, consolidation. So I'm in intermunicipal agreements, so I'm a strong supporter of that. But everybody has to realize before they talk the talk that they need to do their analysis of that, because it all sounds good. You know, people always say, can the village become the town? Can the town become the village? Let's do this, let's do that. The political structure is so complicated that I would need most of the night to explain why it can't be done. However, when I was on mayor, I formed a committee that involved the Village of Briarcliff Manor, the school board, the town of Ossining board, and of course the village board. We had a meeting at the community center to identify things that we could all save money on. Out of that particular meeting, as I recall, we agreed to buy rock salt together, which we all need in the wintertime, aggregate, which is stones and things of that nature, and various things like that that save all municipalities money. But the most important thing, we established a line of communication and a spirit of cooperation. You see, I don't believe that if I was in office, that 1720, that lawsuit would ever happen, because I'm a deal maker. I know how to negotiate. I'm a uniter, not a divider. That was uncalled for. It was a waste of taxpayers' money on the town of Ossining and the village of Briarcliff Manor. So what I'm saying to you briefly is that a lot of flap happens. There are people that talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. So with that, we'll learn more about these subjects hopefully later on.
Thank you, Mr. Perillo. Ms. Levenberg, consolidation of services has been beneficial to the town over the last few years. The recreation department, courts, and police have all been combined. What is your view of the path to future consolidation of the town and village? And do you see this process moving forward? If so, what benefits could it provide? And if you do not believe it should move further, why not?
Number one, I absolutely do think that it benefits everybody in both villages and the town if we are able to collaborate and consolidate wherever it makes sense to do so. Just some quick thoughts about ways that we can move forward. I think that we have an excellent opportunity to look at our planning departments and how they can work together better and possibly share services. I also think one of the things that we looked at some years back was a way to share a grant writer. One of the things that I've been able to do is really bring some economic development opportunities to some of the municipalities in Assemblywoman and Gallups, 95th Assembly District, through leveraging my relationships with the Economic Development Council. So how can we bring additional state grants into the town and use that also to figure out what the best way forward is in terms of consolidation and sharing of services, and what things do not make sense to consolidate or share. I do think that there also is a lot of untapped state dollars. There are a lot of untapped state dollars out there that we need to bring here for economic development, and I want to make sure that we do that in the most economically feasible way possible, using our state representatives to help us in that way. And I think that I have established those connections to do that, and I look forward to moving forward.
Thank you, Ms. Levenberg. Our next question, what is your strategy and or plan to develop, promote, and foster business along the North State Road corridor or in other sections of the town?
Well, I think that we have some excellent opportunities already. It's a very wide corridor on North State Road, and one of the things that I would like to make sure is that we can connect it effectively to our waterfront. I want to make sure that we have opportunities to make best use of what I hope to be some positive tourism dollars that will be coming in from the Sing Sing Prison Museum, and making sure when people do come here by train or by ferry that they have an opportunity to not only get to our main streets and our and the village's business corridor, but also over to North State Road, as well as connecting it to Pleasantville Road in Briarcliff and the other business corridors. I'd love to see a trolley. I know that that seems a little bit pie in the sky, but we have had a trolley here in Ossining in the past, and I think that working together we can do so again. I think that there are other opportunities also for connectivity, such as the Uber-like taxi services that are on the horizon with the Upstate Revitalization Initiative. And I'd like to see us more walkable and bikeable, and that's also sort of a wave of the future, looking to New York City and how they've leveraged biking to develop some of their business destinations and also connect people who work and live there.
Great, thank you. Mr. Perillo, what is your strategy under plan to develop, promote, and foster business along the North State Road corridor or in other sections of the town?
Well, the first thing I would do is I would have quarterly public informational meetings and listen to where direction that whole community wants to go. In other words, if you look at North State Road, you can compare that maybe to a downtown or a village type atmosphere. What I would suggest is to make it more community friendly, neighborly friendly. I would entertain the thought and get direction from the community of that particular area if they want to get involved with streetscape, sidewalks, lampposts, flowers, and soften it. That area was kind of hodgepodge for many years. I'm glad to see finally that the town board is now have developed a board of architectural review. It's an extension of the planning board. So what that means is that when an applicant comes in front of the planning board, whether it's a building that's already there or new construction, they can determine how that should fit in that particular area. See, I like to take direction from the community. I consider them the engine and the heart. I consider the boards kind of the rudder. We make it happen. Because I know that I don't have all of the answers, and I don't want to impose any of my vision on the community. So with that said, I think that's the direction I would take. Also, you know, North State Road has a lot of potential. The potential is there. I know that there is concern about, you know, how it developed and the neighbors, because there's beautiful homes in that particular area. So to reiterate, I think streetscape, softening it, make it more community friendly and neighborly friendly would be the answer to that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perillo. You answered parts of this question before, but the tax revaluation reassessment will be completed by February of 2016, and the amount of taxes collected is determined by the town budget and will amount to a zero-sum gain. However, according to Tyler Technologies, there may be winners and losers in this process. And what is your view, and how do you explain this to your constituents?
Well, I'm going to explain it very simply. I'm not for reassessment. So that $2 million will be shelved, okay? And at some point, I'd like to maybe have those quarterly informational meetings to explain everything. But our team will not implement that. You know, I use the word, and it's always around, people don't pay their fair share. There's over 10,000 parcels that were looked at. And I agree with everybody, and even Tyler, that there are some people that don't pay their fair share. And if I exaggerate, let's say it's 1,000 property owners that don't pay their fair share. I'm not willing to drag the other 9,000 in on this. You know why? Because reassessment will happen all the time. Reassessment will happen all the time. It'll happen 30 years from now. This room, if it exists, new people will have the same conversation. You know, I come from an area where my father taught me it's not what a person makes, it's what a person can save. And that's the key here. We don't need more of your money. We need to spend your money more wisely. So I want to reiterate, my opponent stated publicly many times, and her team, I believe, because it is a team, as we are, that they want reassessment. They believe in it, and that's good. We believe differently. So we do not support reassessment. A bipartisan board is needed on every elected office. It works better when there's a difference of opinion on all of the subject matters that come in front of the board. They walk in lockstep. That's why you have debacles like the building of a new police station on North State Road for $4.5 million, and he sold it for $1.5 million. And that was built for 15 police officers. There was more chiefs than Indians in that building, so to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Perillo. Ms. Levenberg, the tax revaluation reassessment will be completed by February 2016. The amount of taxes collected is determined by the town budget and will amount to a zero-sum game. However, according to Tyler Technologies, there may be winners and losers in this process. What is your view, and how do you explain this to your constituents?
So I think that the whole idea of reassessment is to get more transparency and accuracy into our taxation, and to make sure that everybody knows exactly where they stand with the values of their properties. If I live in a house and right next to my neighbor, and my neighbor has agreed their taxes and has managed to get a lower tax, has effectively gotten their taxes down, and we have both the same value of our house, but they're paying less in taxes, that's just not fair. For somebody who might have developed property and maybe didn't get it fully inspected, and it's not really noticed on the tax rolls, and they're not paying their fair share, the rest of us are paying for that property. So reassessment has a couple of different things, and it's the other really big piece of it that I want you to be aware of is, having been on the school board, I voted for tax tertiary refund after tax tertiary refund, hundreds of thousands of dollars per meeting that were going back to property owners who had grieved their taxes through the process. But not everybody does that. So what happens? Number one, the school district or the municipality has to pay that money now back to the taxpayer, and that comes out of the general budget. Or if you've been smart, you've saved some of the money over. You have the next year, everybody else has to pick up the slack. Everybody else has to pick up what that person has grieved their taxes down, even if I haven't grieved my own. So how is that fair to the people who haven't gone out of their way to just ask, can I get a lower tax bill? This puts everybody back on the same level playing field when you start, and it doesn't add anything to the overall pie. That's how I would explain it.
Thank you, Ms. Levenberg. Ms. Levenberg, please discuss the Sing Sing Museum project and how this fits in with your vision of the waterfront.
So I got very excited about the Sing Sing Museum project when I was working in Assemblywoman Gale's office. And the reason is because I think that it's a great way to turn something that many of us have seen as a liability for so many years into an asset. Turning the old powerhouse that's not really in use anymore into a working museum with a brand name like Sing Sing, I think has incredible economic development opportunities especially for the village and town of Ossining, as well as Briarcliff. People are going to come here from, we already know how many hits we've seen on the Facebook page that's been established for the Sing Sing Museum, and it's coming from Italy, from Germany, from New York City. People want to come and see something that is so unique and special that they can't get anywhere else. And developing the old powerhouse into a museum is an excellent opportunity to also work with all of the reform institutions that have helped and are putting people, taking those people that have been, that are formerly incarcerated and helping them get back into society, such as Hudson Link and Rehabilitation Through the Arts. And I also think that there's an excellent opportunity for there to be a performing arts space because it's such a wonderful and large and historic space in and of itself. I believe that it'll also be an opportunity for us to connect to other historic sites in Ossining, and people will want to come here to see that and see other sites. So I'm hoping that we can establish a revolving loan fund for historic sites so that we can make sure that we develop those and take advantage of all of our historic structures.
Thank you. Mr. Perillo, please discuss the Sing Sing Museum. Please discuss the Sing Sing Museum project and how this fits in with your vision of the waterfront.
Well, I'll give you a little history here. I go back when there was the Jericho Committee. If anybody doesn't remember that or know about it, it was a committee to go away with Sing Sing prison. It was, let's knock the walls down, so to speak. I'm not so positive like my opponent is on the Sing Sing prison. I can't compare that to Alcatraz because when Alcatraz was considered to be a museum, it was a closed facility. Let's not forget that Sing Sing prison is a maximum security system, and I feel a little bit uncomfortable is the word to exploit a place where prisoners are. Maximum prisoners that have murdered people, okay? On paper, this may sound really, really nice. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that say, bring it on. And we talk about revenue, but nobody's told me where the revenue is going to go. Is it going to the state? Is it going to the county? Is it going to end up in the coffers of the village of Ossining? If you really want revenue from that property, go away with the property. It's prime property for development right on the Hudson, okay? I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to see more, but I'm not putting my rubber stamp on something that I believe is just not defined. I was part of the Sing Sing exhibit at the community center. Now, I'm not comparing the two, but if you want to learn a little bit about the history of Sing Sing prison, please go to the Sing Sing exhibit at the Joseph Caputo Community Center. So, I've heard this over the years. Let's build Market Square, they will come. Let's build a post office, the people will come. Let's build a new police court facility, they will come. I don't know, it's not happening. I do have a plan, and they're shelved up somewhere on the second floor of the 16 Croton Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Perillo. And our last question, Mr. Perillo, on November 4th, when we go to the polls, what thoughts?
No, you can't hear you.
Just one mic.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
No.
Mr. Perillo, on November 4th, when we go to the polls, on November 3rd, when we go to the polls, I haven't changed the title of it. What thoughts will you hope are in the minds of the voters that will differentiate you from your opponent and will persuade the electorate to vote for you?
Thank you. Well, here's what I hope. I hope that on November 3rd, that this community was given a choice of an election, a democracy, because you're almost disenfranchised of that. I hope that you listen very, very carefully, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, or conservative. All the things that I have offered and given to this community over 3.5 decades, it wasn't for my party, it was for all of you. I don't look at people at Reservoir Park or Richard Wishney Park as a Democrat or a Republican. You have to make an informed decision. Now, I know that as an enrolled Republican and you may be of a different party, that we share a difference of opinion on our philosophy, our ideology, on a higher level, on a national level, maybe a state level, down to a county level. But I know that we all think the same when it comes to Ossining and Briarcliff, because we're all local. We share 10562. We all have that same number, or 10510. So I hope that we have given you the opportunity to exercise your right, and we didn't disenfranchise the community by having a coronation of our other team, because that's what it was supposed to be. No different than the village election. And I don't blame anybody for it. I blame the parties, both sides. So I hope that you will consider listening, reading what may come to you, and making an informed decision. And let me tell you, government works best in a bipartisan way. It's the only way that you can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Levenberg, on November 3rd, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hope are in the minds of the voters that will differentiate you from your opponent and will persuade them to vote for you?
I hope that everybody will think of me for the positive relationships that I've built with people, building bridges, and having the experience on the school board to keep taxes under the tax cap so that our property taxpayers can get their tax rebates from the state. I hope that people will understand that I'm for fair distribution of taxation, and also that I'm going to work hard with the villages and the town together to continue to work on sharing and consolidation of services so that we can cut costs. I hope that people will remember me for the good work that I've done at the state level to bring state grant dollars here into our local communities, and that I will continue to do, and I will leverage those relationships that I've developed and those connections and the ease with which I can make it through those different departments. Also, I'm going to continue to work on the best deals. I'm going to continue to work with the Chamber of Commerce, with Green Ossining and Sustainable Westchester to make sure that we maintain our sustainable and environmentally friendly policies here, and that'll also help reduce costs for everybody here in Ossining. I have creative approaches to getting more money here into our municipality from outside dollars, and I want to leverage our historic structures and make sure that we bring tourist dollars here again so that we can have business development and make sure that Ossining thrives. And I hope that you will support all of us working together, Karen DeTore, Liz Feldman, and myself, Dana Levenberg, so that we can continue to move Ossining forward and build a better Ossining. Thank you.
And we have a round of applause for both our candidates for council. Our next discussion will be with the candidates for the Ossining Town Council. Karen DeTore is running on the Democrat and Working Families Party lines. Elizabeth Feldman is running on the Democrat and Working Families Party lines. Michael Milner is running on the Conservative and Reform Party lines and will join us from afar. He is Skyping in. Evidently, he made a promise well before he decided to go for office that he would take his wife away on vacation on their wedding anniversary. And lastly, Aaron Spring is running on the Conservative and Reform Party lines. I was making the comment earlier that it reminded me of one of these Star Trek episodes with the guy in the great big screen in the background. But, are you with us, Mr. Milner?
I can just...
John, if you were talking to the computer, that would be very helpful. Pardon? If you could talk to the computer and you were here. Oh, you're asking a question.
Boss. can now.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
I love technology.
Okay, Mr. Spring, please tell us about yourself, what credentials you bring to the office you seek, and please include your educational and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to exceed in your position.
So firstly, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for having us here today for this forum. It's much appreciated by myself and all the candidates. I'm Aaron Spring. I'm a graduate of Ossining High School, 2015, and I'm currently a business and law student at Fordham University. I'm pursuing a 5-year MBA there. I believe I bring many skills to the table that my opponents also have, but I believe I bring them in a special way. One is I believe I can represent the youth. 18 to 28-year-olds currently do not have any real representation in government, and I believe they need a voice because a communication gap currently exists between them and their parents. I believe I can hit this nail right on the head and bring that representation that is so desperately needed. I received many awards, and my skills go, bipartisan, if you will. In February of 2015, I received an award from Commissioner Doug Colte, naming me Republican Volunteer of the Year for Ossining for Westchester County. In March, Mayor Garrity and her all-Democratic board gave me an award for the Snow Angel project that I started, which is a service that shovels drivers for the elderly and physically disabled free of charge. In April, County Legislator Catherine Borgia honored me for being an Intel semifinalist, one of 300 in the nation. And in May, the Democratic Town Committee of Ossining gave me a scholarship to pursue higher education. So I've worked both sides, I can continue to work both sides, and I believe we need bipartisanship in order to ensure a more transparent and clear government. So I ask for your vote this November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spring. Ms. Dottori, please tell us about yourself and what credentials do you bring to the office you seek. Please include your educational and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
First, I'd like to say thank you to everybody, to the Chamber and everybody here tonight. This is a great opportunity and a wonderful way to hear everybody's views on very important things in our community. I have a bachelor's in the arts, West Virginia Wesleyan College. That's another story. But I bring a tremendous amount of experience, both local experience and global experience. Can you not hear me? Oh, sorry. My experience spans marketing communications, public health, housing, international development, and public-private partnerships. I started my career in advertising and marketing, and when we moved to Ossining, I became very involved in the community. I worked at Open Door for 6 years as Director of Development. During that time, Open Door grew from an $11 million organization to a $30 million organization. Once I left Open Door, I worked for UN agencies on public-private partnerships. I worked with corporations such as Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Yum Brands, Unilever, as well as many others to forge public-private partnerships that address issues of food insecurity, global sustainability, gender equality, and emergency response and disaster relief. Last year, I came back to Ossining, and I was chosen as the Executive Director of IFCA, where I'm working very hard to ensure that IFCA fulfills its mission of preserving diversity for affordable workforce housing.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dottori. Mr. Miller, please tell us about yourself. What credentials do you bring to the office you seek? And please include your educational and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you, members of the Chamber of Commerce, for the opportunity to be here tonight. Thank you also to the community for helping set up the IT effort. So, my uniform. I'm a retired military officer. I had 39 years active duty. I retired as an Assistant United States Surgeon General and a Rear Admiral. I have a doctoral degree in health policy and public health. I've been a dean of a health professions university, managing multiple components of a multiple campus process. The other things that I would have to say is that I'm technically savvy in many things that are focused on emergency preparedness, and as Karen mentioned, in public health and public housing, having been responsible for about a third of the country on federal public health programs. I had oversight of the Community Health Center network. I've served on the board of a local community health center in my hometown. Other things that I've done, I've served as a Boy Scout leader and a Girl Scout leader. I did that for 20 years, raised a number of young people to the rank of Eagle Scout and Gold Award in Girl Scouting. And that's, what's inspired me to be part of this race, is to see a young man like Aaron Spring, who's so committed and passionate to helping his community. I felt that I could learn something from him, and also from the maturity of John Perillo, who's had many, many years of service in the community and understanding the needs of the community. I'm a homeowner in Ossining, and I'm excited about having this opportunity to be here and be participating in this debate, as well as learning more about my candidates, my opponents, and the community. Thank you. I think.
Ms. Feldman, please tell us about yourself. What credentials do you bring to the office you seek? And please include your education, your achievements as well.
Working together to make it work, to work together to make the boat club work, which is the same thing as helping working together as a community, which is what Ossining is all about. Everybody working together through all our volunteer organizations and other organizations to make it work. I'm a budget-conscious single mother, raising a family in Ossining. I'm a homeowner for over 20 years, and it's not easy to keep a budget in this kind of day and time. I think I'd like to take my frugalness and bring that to the board and see if I can't really, see everything that we're looking at. Do we need it, and what's the most reasonable way to get it? The reason I'm running for town council is I really love Ossining. I want to do my part and step up for the community that I love. And I look forward, I have a creative, solution-oriented way of thinking, and I'd like to bring that to the table for Ossining. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Feldman. Ms. Feldman, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the town over the next few years, and how would you address them?
There's a lot of issues. I think we need to work together to bring more businesses and enhance the businesses that we have. I think our business community is key, and revitalizing, and like Rika was talking about, giving us a name as a historic riverfront community. I think, anyway, I think that Ossining should be a destination. Ossining is a great place to live, and I think that we need to bring our volunteers together and promote our history, get people to know all the things that are going on. I am in favor of the Sing Sing Museum. I believe that we can have a map or some sort of tour that goes from Sing Sing to Jug Tavern to Mary Knoll to all our arches and all of our historic areas. I think that bringing that together will really bring Ossining to be a destination. I think we need to keep forefront or keep hold on our taxes. Everybody wants us to keep a hold on taxes, and I think that by collaborating with the village and the two villages, that we can do more IMA and keep a hold of that. Other things I think are important. We'll talk more.
Thank you, Ms. Feldman. Mr. Milner.
Yes.
What do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the town over the next few years, and how would you address them?
Well, I think number one thing that John mentioned is the tax reassessment. I retired after 39 years on active duty, and I came home to Ossining. We have a home here, and it's unbelievable to me that because my neighbor's basement is finished, the assumption is that my basement's finished, therefore my taxes are going to go up. I want to stop the reassessment, just like John mentioned and Aaron mentioned. The three of us will work to do that. I think we have to figure out how to live within our means. I'm a fresh set of eyes to this community. I've served in many, many communities around the country in uniform, and I stepped away from that uniform many times to serve in my community, to learn about, to be part of that community, to embrace that community. I'm doing that in Ossining. This is where my family lives. I have nieces and nephews. I have 2 nephews sitting in the audience tonight because I care about them having a future place to live, be able to afford to live in the town where their grandma and grandpa lived, where their mom and dad lived, and where their Uncle Mike and their Aunt Patty lived. This is important to me, so I want to stop the reassessment. It's the #1 thing as far as I'm concerned. I'm also concerned as a seasoned public health professional emergency responder that our town is prepared to handle emergencies. Storms. What happens up the road 7.8 miles from where you're sitting if something happens at that nuclear plant? We exercised our evacuation plans. I'm not sure that we've done that, at least not in my time in the last couple of years here in Ossining, that have I seen an exercise take place. I know we did something in September. I'm sorry, I'm not hearing the bell ring very loud, but I think my time's up.
Thank you very much. Ms. Vittori, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the town over the next few years, and how would you address them?
I believe the most pressing issue facing Ossining going forward is preparing for the future, a future that's going to bring great challenges, economic challenges, environmental challenges, social challenges, the challenge of me being able to speak into a microphone. But I think this is really what we're looking at. How do we address our changing world going forward and take those challenges and turn them into opportunity? And that really is going to involve a strong, collaborative way of working together, the villages and the town of Ossining, in thinking about smart economic growth that's sustainable is the key issues for the community going forward, and this is what I would like to focus on. I think we have a great team put together that brings a lot of collective experience to these issues. We have a lot of great ideas for economic growth. We have a lot of great ideas for doing it in a sustainable way. And from my perspective, I'd like to really make sure that we insert public-private partnerships and looking at more innovative way of doing things in the future going forward.
Thank you, Ms. Vittori. Mr. Spring, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the town over the next few years, and how would you address them?
Well, there's multiple issues that are facing the town. As my teammates both mentioned, town-wide reassessment is one of them. If you look at what Tyler Technology said, they said 33% of people are going to see a tax increase. I believe it's unfair to raise the taxes on people, especially people on a fixed income and people who are living paycheck to paycheck. That's just not right. We're here to fight for the taxpayer, not fight to increase their taxes. Another thing we need to push for the future is the use of power by government, not the abuse of power by government. If you look at what they did to the Boat and Canoe Club, that's a shame. They closed it down, they had Con Ed trucks cut the power in order for them to pursue an interest to make that into a private restaurant. We need to preserve the institutions that keep Ossining great, and that's one of them. So I would look to make a more transparent board that is using its power, not abusing its power. Another issue we so desperately seek is the way to stop frivolous spending. If you look at the town police station that Mr. Perillo mentioned before, they built it at $4.5 million, only to sell it for $1.5. $3 million net loss, $3 million losses in taxpayer dollars. Now, the board should take responsibility for that, but more importantly, they have to come up with a way to tell the taxpayers why they sold it at the net loss. We need to look for ways to spend our dollar better and look for ways to save, not ways to spend. Government is made to tax and spend, not spend and tax. Thank you.
Ms. Vittori, in terms of the business community, what in your record distinguishes you from your opponents?
My experience, I bring a lot of public and nonprofit and private sector experience. And being able to navigate those worlds and do it successfully has been a proven strength of mine. So I think in terms of the business community, what I really bring forth is the ability to work with businesses and on a shared value platform. So that means not only thinking of what business needs are, but matching those needs to the community needs so that you really create a symbiotic relationship where all needs are met, but you can really create situations where businesses can thrive, you can attract businesses, it benefits the community in so many ways. So it's the ability to match the needs of business and the needs of our community in a way that all boats rise is what I bring to the table and what I've done successfully at the UN, and I believe I can do successfully here in Ossining. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spring, in terms of the business community, What in your record distinguishes you from your opponents?
Well, multiple things will distinguish me. First off, I see them as my running mates, not my opponents. We're all running for the same thing, Ossining Town Council. So one of the things that I'm looking to do is I'm pursuing a business career. I actually just a couple weeks ago sat down with billionaire Mario Gabelli to discuss business. And the stuff I learn every day in school and the lessons I learn every day in school, I look to implement into the community. For example, I learned the other day about tax incentives, how tax incentives do not attract businesses into a community. Rather, we need consistent low rates for business owners in order to stay in a community and thrive in a community. So I'm going to look to use my degree that I'm earning, as well as my past experience working in both the deli and my current experience working in a local law office to make Ossining a better place for our businesses. If you look at the Village of Briarcliff meeting from about 2 months ago, they asked the town of Ossining to allocate certain funds to fix 2 roads, one going into North State Road and one going to Chappaqua Road, in order to drive business into the area because there's current potholes on those roads. If I'm elected, I would look to give them those funds necessary in order to make the traffic congestion, in order to impede the traffic congestion rather, and make it so that people can get to these businesses on North State Road and spend their money on North State Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Feldman, in terms of the business community, what in your record distinguishes you from your opponents?
I think my strength comes from knowing so many people in Ossining. I know so many different types of business owners, and I love people. So from the locksmith to the garage owner to the lawn guy and Bob's Army Navy, I know a lot about these stores, and I'm interested in listening to them and talking to them about what they feel and what they'd like to see in town. I'm also interested in trying to develop with the Chamber of Commerce a way that people can, as I'm going door to door, I'm hearing, well, why don't we have a place where I can buy some clothes? I said, well, I buy them at Bob's. Oh, does he have that? I didn't know. So I'm wondering if we can't get together some sort of a registry or list that people can go and find the type, know what kind of business we have, and look to see what kind of businesses they like, and work together with the Chamber of Commerce in a very collaborative way to enhance the businesses that we have and promote and attract the ones that the community would like.
Thank you, Ms. Feldman. Mr. Milner.
Yes.
What do you believe are the most pressing issues facing Czechta? In terms of the business community, what in your record distinguishes you from your opponents?
Thanks, John. That's a great question. I look back on my career, I would have to say that building partnerships has been one of my key successes. Most of my career, at least the last 15 years in senior executive role, was to bring communities together, to figure out what was needed to get through whatever the issue was. If it was around emergency preparedness, preparing for a pandemic, if it was improving healthcare disparity, elimination in a community, improving women's health issues in a community. Those are things that I focused on, and I brought folks together as a convener, a neutral convener. Who's missing from the table? What are the things that are needed here? What are we going to do to get down the road? If it's 70%, we've moved down the field. No one ever gets 100%. If you get 100%, somebody loses out. My motto has always been cooperate and graduate. So from a business perspective, I'll bring that same perspective to the community. I use all the local businesses, and I hear from businesses how bad the taxes are, how they're impacted by the high rate of property taxes. So I'll make sure those business leaders are at the table, those folks who have mom and pop shops that are trying to make it, provide jobs for our local community. That's what I think I can bring to this ticket. That's what I bring to this debate. And that's what I think I can bring to the community of Briarcliff and Ossining and the town outside.
Thank you, Mr. Milner. And Mr. Milner, our next question, you already started some of it with your previous response. But this past year, many homeowners received an extra refund from the state because our local governing bodies and school boards kept within the limitations of Governor Cuomo's 2% tax cap on local governments. Please address this issue and describe your position on the 2% tax cap. How do you believe it's best to balance taxation with services? Please be as specific as you can.
So I appreciate the fact that some people got a rebate. I didn't get a check. I'm not sure who did. I don't know anybody in my family that got a rebate check, but that's a separate issue. I believe that staying within the budget cap is important. I had to manage my funds as a federal leader and stay within my budget. And so that's an extra piece that I'll just debate. There's no question that we've got to find better ways to cooperate and partner with the community to be able to share expenses and share the resources. Not every community has to have the same thing, and so I like the idea that we can have interagency, intermutual agreements as a way to hold the spending cap. But I also think that we've got to look outside and get away from a lot of the cronyism that's been going on. When you have someone who's leaving office to be transferred into another town-paid position, such as what's happening with the cemetery management, I think that's wrong. Somebody needs to look at that and make sure that that's A, legal, and B, not being done in a way that is against law or against rule or against, it doesn't smell right to me to have somebody leave an office not being reappointed by their party and then put into another office. So I would work hard to make sure that there's transparency and clarity in all of the processes that go across our government.
Thank you. Ms. Feldman, this past year, many homeowners received an extra refund from the state because our local governing bodies and schools kept within the 2% tax cap presented by Governor Cuomo. How do you, please address this issue and describe your position on the tax cap? How do you believe it best to balance taxation and services?
Okay, well, I was happy to get a check in the mail. I admit that. I think it's really important to try to keep a cap on the taxes. I think one of the things that hurts us the most are the unfunded mandates. So I think continuing to lobby Albany to reevaluate and see how many of the unfunded mandates are absolutely necessary, and if we can't do away with some of them, that would help us stay within our tax cap. I think that we can incorporate more green technologies into our town and our infrastructure, so that maybe we can lower our utility bills and save some money that way, and try to save the taxpayers some money that way. I look forward to working with Dana and all of her experience with grant writing and finding grants and other funds available from places other than our tax dollars. In these ways, we really hope, and sharing services, of course. In all these different creative ways, I hope to, and as a board, just Karen, Dana, and I really hope to work together with the current board and find creative solutions that don't involve raising taxes and staying well within the cap. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spring, this past year, many homeowners received an extra refund from the state because our local governing bodies and schools kept within the limitations of Governor Cuomo's 2% tax cap. Please address this issue and describe your position on the tax cap and how you best believe it to balance taxation and services.
Okay, so there's multiple ways that we can use the tax cap to balance both taxation and the use of our services. One, as Mr. Perillo mentioned before, was the consolidation. When elected, there should be quarterly meetings between the Village of Briarcliff, the Village of Ossining, Town of Ossining, and the school board to see where they can consolidate, for example, the rock salt and the stones. Another way in which we can look to keep taxes down is if you look at multiple districts in Briarcliff that pay Ossining school tax, they're actually double taxed on the library. They pay both Briarcliff library tax and Ossining library tax. We should so that they only have to pay one and give them, relief on their library tax, if you will, because everybody else only has to pay one. Therefore, these districts should only have to pay one as well. As Ms. Levenberg mentioned before, these grants that exist, they shouldn't be written only if the team gets in. These grants should be looked at regardless. If the state aid exists, if Sandy Galiff and the state aid exists and these resources exist, we should be looking into them now, before the election. They shouldn't just be passed because someone gets elected or doesn't get elected. These need to be, if these are going to help the taxpayer and these are going to help the children in the schools, they need to be looked at now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lastly, Ms. Latore, this past year, many extra refund from the state because our local governing bodies and schools kept within the 2% limitation of Governor Cuomo's tax cap. Please address this issue and describe your position on the tax cap. How do you believe it best to balance taxation with services?
Well, first I'd like to acknowledge my running mate, Dina Levenberg, for playing an instrumental role along with the school board of making sure that we stayed within the tax cap. I think there are many ways that we can look to make our governments more efficient. I think the ideas of consolidation where it works make perfect sense. I think they should be explored more fully. Again, I will bring my experience in partnership, public-private partnerships to this discussion as well. I think that there are untapped opportunities to make things more efficient. We do have an opportunity to expand green technology. We have an opportunity to do many things within our community to make things more efficient, more seamless, and also really look at going forward, how can we best achieve those objectives by looking at something in a different way. So there's so many different opportunities right now, so many organizations that are well positioned to play a role in improving our quality of life, making our lives more efficient, our economy more efficient. So to that end, I think that we've made a good start in this, and I think it's something that we should take forward, and we have a great team here with an experience to do so that's already proven that it can. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spring, contentious positions for the town this past year revolved around the Ossining Canoe Club, the reduction of salaries of certain elected officials, Dale Cemetery, or the tax reassessment. Briefly describe your views on one or more of these issues and how you would handle that issue going forward.
Well, first, let's start with the tax reassessment. They started by breaking your Fourth Amendment rights by invading your private property to reassess your taxes. And then, if you look at what they said, 33% of people would see an increase in their taxes. I believe, once again, this is unfair, especially for people on a fixed income, people living paycheck to paycheck. If you look at Tyler Technology, who said this is revenue neutral, not going to be any revenue made off this, I advise you to read the New York Times article about what happened in Scarsdale, where they created $1.2 million of taxable revenue because of the reassessment there. I tell every government official, if you have a room full of garbage, do you raise the ceiling so you can put more garbage in it, or do you start to clean the garbage up? We don't need more revenue. We just need to use our resources in a more, efficient and transparent way. Going back to elected officials. Officials are elected at a certain salary by the taxpayer. It is not up to a town board to play with the salaries of these officials. If the voter has an issue with the salaries made by a certain official, it's the responsibility of the voter and the responsibility of the party, the opposing party, to put up someone else or to put up a proposal to cut these salaries. It's not up to a town board to do this. You cannot cut someone's salary in half. Once again, people living paycheck to paycheck. How do you expect them to pay for their house? How do you expect them to pay their taxes when they now have 50 cents of every dollar they used to make? And going back to the Boat and Canoe Club, use of power, not abuse of power. That's what government is about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spring. Ms. Dettori, the contentious positions for the town this past year revolved around the Ossining Canoe Club, the reduction of salaries of certain elected officials, Dale Cemetery, and the tax reassessment. Briefly describe your views on one or more of these issues and how you would handle them.
I think one of the greatest challenges is that while we all agree that we want lower taxes, how we get there is maybe we're not always in full agreement. So in trying to do the right thing, it's important to remember that it's not just doing the right thing, it's how you do the right thing. So it's important in making any decisions that affect taxpayers, that affect people's livelihoods, that affect any number of things that affect us personally, because we all live in a community. We know each other. We see each other all the time. So we have to think about not only what we're doing, but how we're doing it. And that's really an important consideration, because a lot of times we can reach the same conclusion. We can be more efficient, we can be more effective, but we don't necessarily have to alienate people in the process, and we can do so in a way that we can have more dialogue, more discussion, more transparency to make sure that as we're doing things that we believe will ultimately benefit the taxpayers, that we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Thank you.
Yes.
Contentious positions for the town this past year revolved around the Austin Boat Canoe Club, the reduction of salaries of certain elected officials, Dale Cemetery, and this tax reassessment. Briefly describe your views on one or more of these issues and how you would handle them going forward.
Thanks, John. Well, I think I mentioned how I feel about the Dale Cemetery. I would call for forensic audit. I would look at this from a legal perspective and make sure that if there was any impropriety, that there would be consequences. And that's how I would stay with that. I'm a fresh set of eyes, and I'll be able to look at these things with a fresh set of eyes and not be bound by any political wranglings, not have any obligations to anybody from a political perspective. I'm a registered independent, and therefore I'm not bound to any of these cronyisms that's been going on for many, many years in this town. I think that what was mentioned about the salary cut, Aaron spoke well to that. I would just reestablish those salaries and make sure that if there is a concern about someone's salary, then as Aaron said, we need to have a party needs to run an opposition, or there needs to be a petition to change the salary. So I would restore Michael Connor and Gloria Freed's salary to their elected level that was approved by the citizens. And then in terms of reassessment, I think I've already spoken about that. I would put a stop to it on day one and would make sure that we don't have unnecessary reassessment. We're taxing people out of the ability to stay here in Austin. That doesn't do anything to sustainable, affordable housing. If taxes go up, rents go up, people can't afford to live here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Millman. Ms. Feldman, contentious positions in the town this last year revolved around the Austin Boat Canoe Club, the reduction of salaries of certain elected officials, Dale Cemetery, and the tax reassessment. Briefly describe your views on one or more of these issues and how you would handle them going forward.
Okay, I know what everybody thinks I'm going to talk about. Anyway, I did just want to say on the idea of reassessment, none of the people running were the ones that made the decision to reassess, but it hasn't been done since the 70s. And while I understand there's going to be a third of the people whose taxes will go up, there's also supposed to be a third that go down. Some of those people could also be on fixed incomes and could really use a little extra money in their pocket for their health care or something else. So I think a fair distribution is warranted. Enough about that. Anyway, Austin Boat Canoe Club, dear to my heart. I think it's a unique jewel on the Hudson. I think it speaks to our history, our community efforts, our sense of community, where it's a bunch of people who got together and built a boathouse for affordable access to the Hudson. Back in the 20s, when the people first got weekends, and there was first and Fair Labor Act, when the weekends and the living wage came to be, people found themselves with a disposable income for the first time, and the people that didn't want to have the yachts got together and built a place where they can bring their canoes and their ice boats, and they worked together to build it and maintain it for over 100 years now. And I think it's a wonderful asset for our community, and I think it just speaks to how teamwork and our sense of volunteerism in our community. We have the biggest volunteer fire department, ambulance corps, and the boat club, and it's a place where people learn to work together. I think it's invaluable.
Thank you, Ms. Feldman. And our last question. Ms. Dottori, on November 3rd, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hope are in the minds of the voters that will differentiate you from your opponents and will persuade the electorate to vote for you?
Thank you, John. On November 3rd, important to remember that date, I hope that when people go to the polls, they think to themselves, who has the experience, who has the commitment, who has the proven skills to successfully take the role of town council person. So I believe that I have demonstrated that I have those skills, I have the commitment, and I have the leadership abilities to bring something to the town that's needed, to bring a different way of thinking. I'm not, this is my first time running. I'm not a previous elected official, so I have a different perspective. I think a perspective that's valuable. And I want to make sure that people understand that what my greatest strength is the ability to bring people together, to engage stakeholders, to be transparent, to work with integrity, and to achieve success. I mean, I have achieved success here in Ossining. I've achieved success in my other roles, and the work I'm doing right now with IFTA is moving forward in a very positive way. So that requires a tremendous amount of leadership ability. I was hired to reposition the agency, and I've done so. We've already leveraged $1.2 million of loan money without increasing our current debt service. That money is being reinvested in the community, into our buildings. We own 13 buildings in Ossining, and it's proven to be an effective way to lower operating costs and achieve greater efficiency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Ms. Feldman, on November 3rd, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hope are in the minds of the voters that will differentiate you from your opponent and will persuade the electorate to vote for you?
I think I bring a different perspective to the board than my other teammates. I think together we work well. I'm a lifelong Ossining resident. I've been active in the community my entire life and volunteering in many different areas. T-Town, Boat Club, Scouts, soccer, you name it. I think that somebody who understands the history and has lived it and has watched the growth of the town and the development over the last not quite 50 years, believes a different perspective. And I know so many members of the community. I love people. As a dental hygienist, I meet all different kinds of people all the time. And I think just being so interactive and involved in the community, I really bring a strength to the board in that way.
Thank you, Ms. Feldman. And Mr. Milner, on November 3rd, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hope are in the minds of the voters that will differentiate you from your opponent and persuade the electorate to vote for you?
John, thank you for that question, and I also want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to join remotely. As you know, I had this commitment booked approximately a year ago, all work and some vacation, and I have to thank you and all of you for giving me the chance to come in by Skype. I'm a fresh set of eyes for this community. I have deep roots in this community. I have many, many family members who live here, have lived here for many, many years. Spent 39 years in uniform, defending our country and working in communities to make them better. I'll do the same thing in Ossining. I'm a connector, I'm a team builder, I'm not somebody who's not transparent. In other words, I'm somebody who's out in front and visible, and I spent a life of service, building integrity in my career, my professional career, as well as my community service career. I live in the village, but I'll represent the town, and I'm business friendly. I support well-planned, thoughtful, well-developed ideas to improve our business community and support all of our residents. I want to see my nieces, nephews, in-laws, and family members have an Ossining that's vibrant, a community that's going to be there for them when they decide to raise a family, and hopefully they'll stay here in Ossining and in our surrounding community. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate everyone's effort to make all of this work. Thank you to the Chamber and your partners for making this happen.
Thank you, Mr. Milner, and thank you to all of our candidates for town council. Oh, I'm sorry.
So what differentiates my team from the other team? This is not an issue of Republican versus Democrat or conservative versus Democrat. This is an election about the issues. Look at townwide reassessment. I urge you to read about Lewisboro and Scarsdale, what happened there. It was not the 33, 33, 33 that they said it was. If you look at Scarsdale alone, more than 50 to 60% of people, between 50 and 60% of people saw a tax increase. This is not revenue neutral. They are going to raise the taxes. The taxpayer loses when reassessment happens. I also believe that the Boat and Canoe Club, very important part, you said the jewel of the Hudson, or the jewel of Ossining. We need to preserve that and we need to respect it. Like I said, government officials need to use their power, not abuse their power, and that involves protecting and respecting the Bow and Canoe Club. When we look at our elected officials, we need to restore those salaries. Those people were elected at those salaries, and they deserve to be paid those salaries. If there's an issue with that, it's up to parties to run a candidate. These issues, like I said, are very important. We've seen one party rule this town for the last 15 years. We need bipartisanship. It's how progress gets done. You need to have two sides seeing the situation. We can't have one person suggesting an idea and four bobbleheads nodding their head every time something is proposed. We need bipartisanship, and my team will offer that. So please come out to vote. That is the most important part, whether you vote for us or not. Come out to vote on November 3rd. That's how democracy works. Thank you, and come out to vote.
Thank you, Mr. Spring. And thank you to all of the candidates for running for town council. And our last segment will be that for Westchester County legislators. Kate Mamone is running on the Republican and Conservative Party lines, and Catherine Borgia is running on the Democrat and Working Family Party lines. Ms. Mamone, please tell us about yourself. What credentials do you bring to the office that you serve? And please include your education and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your role.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Okay, so let's do the questions one more time. I've never done this before, so bear with me.
Please tell us about yourself. What credentials do you bring to the office you seek? And please include your educational and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
Okay. My name is Kate. I was born and raised in Croton. My kids are sixth generation Crotonites. My husband's a business owner here in Ossining for over close to 40 years. I'm also a business owner myself. Like I said, I'm a married mom. I also work full-time, and I also have my own business. My education background, I have an associate's degree in hotel restaurant management. I followed that up with a Bachelor of Science degree from Mercy College here when I was a single mom, and I have worked for the county law department for doing juvenile delinquency, paternity and support hearings, as well as working for the state insurance fund for their legal department. And I've also worked for private law firms here. And I've also worked on federal and state cases, and I have had my attorneys run their cases.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Borgia, please tell us about yourself. What credentials do you bring to the office you seek? And please include your education and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sean. And thank you to everyone who's hanging out for the last portion of this evening. And thank you to the library for making this available to us and for the chamber. So my name is Catherine Borgia. I am currently serving as the majority leader of the Westchester County Board of Legislators in my second term. Prior to that, I was the town supervisor here in the town of Ossining, also for 2 terms, and prior to that, I served 2 terms on the village board. I came to public service after a fairly extensive career in business, where I worked for Fortune 500 companies, as well as marketing and public relations and fundraising agencies. I also have 2 small businesses, a consulting business where I continue to do marketing and public relations for nonprofits in Westchester and in Manhattan. And I have an MBA from NYU Stern School of Business, and my bachelor's degree is from SUNY Binghamton. I come to public service after a really extensive career in volunteering. I moved to Ossining soon after I was married, raised my family here, And for the past 24 years, I've been engaged in service to the public in one form or another. I volunteered for basically every safety net here in the community. I'm currently on the T-Town board. I co-founded the Ossining Microfund with my friend Dana Levenberg. You've heard a little bit about that. Because we saw a need in the community. I've been engaged in the PTA, the Junior League. I sit on the T-Town Advisory Board. I was a religious education teacher at St. Augustine's for 10 years, so I have a very deep and rich experience in the community, and I think that really prepares me to serve this community, to serve all of the communities of the 9th Legislative District in a way that is a very grassroots-oriented way, but still with a very big picture, regional planning type of mindset that enables us to work collaboratively in order to create good outcomes for all of the people of this district, of this community, and of Westchester. And in my 2 terms on the county board, I've had a very strong focus on pro-business, especially small local businesses.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Ms. Borgia, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the county over the next few years, and how would you address them?
You know, I think that, thank you, John. I think that the issues that face Westchester County are not unique. I think that we know that we have tight economic times right now. We've heard from our county executive as recently as today that he anticipates that the budget that he proposed to us for this current year is going to have a $25 million deficit, operating deficit this current year. And he's projecting that we're going to see a $77 million deficit in the 2016 budget. So we have some real challenges ahead of us. But I think it's very important for everyone in elected office not to only look at the short term. Decisions that we make in public office impact us for the short term, but also impact us for many, many, many years to come. You have to think 20 years, 50 years, 100 years out. I think when you look around at communities like Ossining, we have been on the cusp of something new for a long time. And what the opportunity that we have in this community, in Westchester, is to look at things with a new perspective, with a bigger picture vision, and with the opportunity to do things in a more efficient and effective way. I was able to do that as the town supervisor here in Ossining, where I was able to have 2 consecutive tax cuts after doing a great deal of good government work in Ossining, and where I was able to support local businesses by creating an atmosphere of economic sustainability.
Thank you. Ms. Mamone, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the county over the next few years, and how would you address them?
Okay, well, the most important thing here is we have taxes. The taxes in Westchester County are very high. And it's very hard to live here, especially when you're a business owner and you're also working full-time. So I would like my family, my kids that are 6th generation Croatonites, to be able to live in Westchester and raise their own family here in Westchester. So for me, as a business owner and as a mom, the most important thing is our taxes. We need it here affordable. And second of all, with the HUD zoning for the federal government, we also would need to have more say in our local zoning. And most of all, most importantly, we need to have business owners to be able to live here in Westchester. That's most important. If we don't have businesses here, everyone's going to leave Westchester County. And I would like to bring a new set of ideas, new way of thinking, and fresh blood into the county legislator position, and take it from a perspective as a business owner and somebody that's lived in Westchester County for their whole life.
Thank you. Ms. Mamone, our next question. What is your plan to help the economies of the river towns and to help Ossining?
That's a very good question, and I'm so glad you asked that. As a business owner, my husband and I, we both own our own businesses. I also work full-time. So I'm glad that you asked that, because the best thing that we need here is more businesses, and it'll also bring more income here. And it'll also bring more people, tourism here in Westchester County, which we're trying to promote. And every river town, their Chamber of Commerce is trying to get more people up here. The more people spend, and the more attractive it is for a business owner or even anybody to just live here, is a good, vibrant community. And we want that here in the river towns. So as a business owner, you know, we want it affordable here. So, and you gotta have taxes low enough to have people live here.
Thank you. Ms. Borgia, what is your plan to help the economies of the river towns and to help us?
So, along with some of my colleagues, we really focused on bringing some resources up into this area of the Rivertown section. There's this tendency in Westchester County, I think, because of where our significant areas of population are, is to look at below 287 as being where Westchester is. But we all know that there's so much to offer here in the North River quadrant of our county. And so I have made sure that we are receiving our fair share of county resources, from a very practical matter of making sure that our infrastructure is equally maintained. Pleasantville Road was brought up in one of the other debates, and that is a road that intersects both the village of Croton, it intersects with North State Road and the town of Ossining, but it is a county-owned road. So one of the things that I insisted on in this level of capital projects was that that road be not only moved up in terms of repairing, but also that we work collaboratively with the affected municipalities to make sure that the work that's done can be most beneficial to the municipalities. I think also we need to, I've hosted several small business forums, and actually I'm planning another one, so if there's any business owners in the audience who would like to participate in that, please do let me know afterwards, where we talk about what are the needs in the life cycle of different businesses. I've had a great opportunity to collaborate with Westchester Community College, their incubator program, to hook up resources for small business owners, particularly women and minority-owned businesses, to access the wonderful services that we have at the Community College for Business Growth. So I think a continued focus on creating the opportunities, creating the atmosphere, and making sure that we in this part of the county receive our fair share of resources is really what's going to grow our economies. My running mates at the local level, I think, have spoken a lot about the thing that businesses need is customers. So we need to make sure that this is a place where people want to live, where people want to spend their money. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Westchester County is the highest taxed county in the nation. Rob Astorino describes 85% of our county taxes as necessary to meet 9 state mandates. So what is your position on this issue, and do you believe that the county tax burden can be lowered? What initiatives would you put in place to reach your objectives?
Sure, thank you, John. So in New York State, counties act as basically a service conduit for programs that are funded by the state and federal government. We do have mandates that are imposed by New York State, which are for services that in our current form of government in New York State are provided by the counties. So that doesn't leave us with a lot of opportunity. In our $1.65 billion budget, it's about $500,000 of discretionary property taxes to fund other sorts of programs and to do the things that improve our quality of life here, like our parks and recreation. Where I see an opportunity, and I bring a unique perspective because I neglected to mention in my introduction that I started my public service career as Assemblywoman Gaylor's Chief of Staff. So I have interesting information from the state level of government, the local level of government, and now at the regional county level. I think that there's a lot of opportunities when you look at people's property taxes. It's a composite of many different types of taxes. We have our local tax. We have, if you live in one of the 2 villages in the town, you have a village tax, a town tax, and a school tax, as well as your county tax. So the opportunities that I see for the county level is to take leadership in creating areas of savings so that the property tax burden is lowered. It's not so much which piece of the pie, you don't really care which piece of the pie gets reduced, really just care that your entire property tax burden is reduced. So we have a really excellent leadership opportunity that I took as the chief elected in the town of Ossining, and that I would like to see us, especially as we're facing such extreme budget deficits, like to see us take a leadership role in Westchester County to help collaborate with all of the other pieces that comprise the property tax bill.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Ms. Lamone, Westchester County is the highest taxed county in the nation. Rob Astorino has stated that 85% of the taxes collected in the county are used to satisfy 9 state mandates. Do you believe the county tax burden can be lowered, and what initiatives would you put in place to reach your objectives?
Okay, so yes, I agree that we have the highest amount of taxes here in the country, and it's very difficult to live here. And Mr. Astorino has done an excellent job of not raising taxes here over 5 years in a row, and I'd like to keep it that way. However, you know, as a business owner, I feel like the more people we can get into Westchester County will help spread everything out. So that means that as a business owner, if we have sustainable, like he's created over 30,000 jobs here. So if you can create more business opportunities for business owners here, it will bring more people in, and that more people will help spread, be able to contribute to our tax base.
Thank you. And our last question. On November 3rd, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hope are in the minds of voters that will differentiate you from your opponent and will persuade the electorate to vote for you, Ms. Monroe?
So, this will be my first opportunity to serve the people of our district, District 9, Croton, Austin, Peekskill, and a bit of Briarcliff. So, I believe that I would bring a bipartisan approach to county government. I would also bring a fresh perspective for running the county from the eyes of a business owner, as well as married to a business owner. And I believe that I could do an excellent job, and that I will give the constituents here a fresh perspective and a good outview, and I would want to run this part of the county in a sensible business-like approach.
Thank you very much. Ms. Borgia, on November 3rd, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hope are in the minds of the voters that will differentiate you from your opponent and will persuade the electorate to vote for you?
Thank you. First of all, let me say thank you for the support that I have received from the voters of this district for the various roles that I have sat in. When I started working for Assemblywoman Galiff, I was coming from a fairly extensive business background, and during my first week on the job, I was able to help a woman receive about $70,000 in unclaimed funds, which allowed her to stay in her home. I was able to help a woman with an insurance claim for her daughter's dental work. I grew addicted, basically, to helping people in the role as a public servant. It's been such an honor and a privilege to do that. I hope when people go to the polls on November 3rd, they think about not only what's in front of us right now, the immediate concerns, but they think about the opportunities we have. Westchester is such a wonderful place. We're so resource rich. It's a beautiful community. We have a tremendous amount of assets here, our people being the biggest of them. And I think that it's time for us to start thinking bigger, to reestablish Westchester County as a thought leader in the nation. I was privileged to be chosen as the New York State representative to an organization, the National Association of Counties training program for leaders. And I heard there that Westchester, people used to look to Westchester County to see how things should be done. And over the past 5 years, although we've certainly seen some opportunities happen, working together in a bipartisan way, I think we've really lost that leadership opportunity. And I would like to go back to Westchester County in order to reclaim our opportunities to really be the place where we create a place for all residents to live and thrive, and to really make Westchester a successful, diverse community that we are, and really increase the opportunities. So I think looking to the future is what I want people to be thinking about on November 3rd.
Thank you very much, Ms. Borgia, and thank you very much to our candidates for county legislature. That concludes our program for this evening. we would like everyone to go out to, be sure to get out and vote on November 3rd, not the 4th. And we thank you for coming and joining us at the candidates forum. Have a great evening.
Come on, Jerry. Get out of the picture.